We're in a short series on attention grabbers for presentations, and in this video, we're going to talk about how to ask rhetorical questions. It's a pretty straightforward way to start a presentation, but there are some details that are worth unpacking. Hello friends, I'm Alex Lyon, a communication coach is here to help you increase your impact and lead your teams to higher levels of excellence. Presentation skills are a great part of your leadership repertoire, and we're talking about attention grabbers, specifically how to grab your audience's attention with a rhetorical question. Now, the first thing I want to recommend is that you keep your questions nice and easy and simple. Make them easy to answer. You don't want to, for example, ask a quiz-style question where the audience has to actually cough up some actual information. I've seen people do that. You don't want to ask anything embarrassing where they have to reveal personal information. You don't want to do anything manipulative where you're trying to get them to agree to something before they understand exactly what's going on. In essence, don't be weird in the way you ask questions. Just nice, simple, easy questions. You want to ask the kinds of questions that start like this. By a show of hands, how many of you have ever? And then you raise your hand as you ask that question. That's the kind of question you want to go after. A nice, easy question that breaks the ice and helps them participate a little bit, gets them thinking. Second tip, I also recommend that you string 2 or maybe 3 questions together. If they're nice, short, simple questions, this can build momentum. I have seen people open with just one single rhetorical question, and it kind of goes by a little too fast, and it doesn't build a lot of interest or actually do the job of grabbing people's attention. And if you do this, I recommend asking simple questions at the beginning, and if you have a more philosophical question, ask that as your second or your third question. Wherever your last question is, you want to do it there. One of the ways to pump this up a little further is to mix your questions with, for example, a statistic. That's a nice way to, because a statistic is another way to grab people's attention. If you package it in a question, it can pump both of them up. So here's a little example. Would it surprise you to learn that the average physician writes 13 prescriptions per American each year? For just 330 million Americans, that's 1.4 billion prescriptions. Those are actual facts, by the way. Now, what I've done there is I've asked a question, would it surprise you to learn? And then I gave a little statistic packaged inside of that. Another way to do it is to ask rhetorical questions and you package them with maybe a quotation somewhere mixed in the middle to pump it up a little bit more. For example, you could ask it like this. Would it shock you to learn that almost 50% of Americans are dissatisfied at work? This is a major problem because, as Steve Jobs said, the only way to do great work is to love what you do. But what is it that makes us happy at work? And so there what I did was I had a question, I brought in a little quotation from Steve Jobs in the middle, and then I ended with another question which is a little more philosophical. So I'm mixing questions and statistics or questions and quotations to pump both of them up a little bit more, to do a little bit more interesting way to introduce and grab people's attention for that presentation. So question of the day, what are your tips for asking great rhetorical questions? Attention grabbers are critical, and I would love to hear your feedback in that section below. So thanks, God bless, and I hope you grab people's attention really well in your next presentation.